It's March and that can only mean one thing: Marchintosh is here. It's the best time of the year. And to celebrate, I'm going to be looking at my G5. But I felt like my G5 was a bit alone, so I bought, well, a second one. And a third. And the 4 more down there that you can't see. I may have a problem. Either way, my name is Jesby. This is my tech department. Although the G5s are taking over. Los Gate. In 2003, Apple needed a replacement for the aging G4 platform. The G4 PowerPC was getting on for 4 years old, which is an eternity in processor years. Intel was on the march and Apple were losing ground. Enter the G5. The G5 was Apple's name for the new 970 PowerPC processor. Unlike the G4, however, Motorola left the PowerPC project, leaving just IBM and Apple to work out the new design. The new G5 would ship out with all of Apple's new computers, including the iMac, but not the laptop range, and I'll explain a little bit about that later. Gone was the plastic case and curved design of the old G3, replaced with pure aluminium. The playful blue and white now exchanged for this grown-up aluminium business suit. The G5 was a serious machine, and it wanted you to know it. It was also the first desktop machine to have a 64-bit processor, something we take for granted these days. What it didn't have was clock speed, arriving with a choice of a single 1.6 GHz processor, a 1.8 GHz processor, or the fancy 2 GHz dual processor setup. Apple were already falling behind Intel, who were shipping Pentium 4s with processor speeds up to 3.4 GHz. Steve Jobs promised that within a year the G5 would see 3 GHz, however. It never did. In fact, the G5 was in many ways a little bit of a downgrade from the G4 Power Mac. Despite the case being much larger, it could only accommodate 2 single hard drives. It was also hot. Really hot. Most G5 machines featured 9 fans designed to keep the various parts in the case cool and on demand no less, but that made it very loud when using it for anything above basic work. A lot of that heat was coming from the CPU, and as clock speeds increased, so did the heat. The smart aluminium case was essentially a giant heatsink. More speed also meant it needed more power. Later models of the G5 could suck 600 watts out of a wall socket at idle. It got so bad that a special power connector was developed for the later dual processor machines. The last machines left Apple in 2006, just 3 years after they were introduced, and with it, the PowerPC processor. Intel would replace the G5, and the new Mac Pro would keep the case with redesigned internals that could fit more hard drives and less fans. Let's take a look at our machines today, starting with Coco. Now, just to explain, I name every computer that comes into the tech department. It helps me keep track of what's what and who's who. Now, I usually base that either on where the machine came from, like Halley. I got Halley from, well, Hallein in Salzburgland, or I base it on the series. So, for example, all my G4 Power Macs are named after men, and they have guys' names, so there are Gustav Uns and Gustav Svar, and so on and so forth. Coco, I bought from a chocolate factory here in Vienna. She was the first G5 I bought, so Coco seemed to be an appropriate name. For the other machines, well, I decided to try and keep their naming scheme in line with that of Coco, choosing spices or cooking items. And fortunately, it makes them sound like a bunch of strippers. Well, let's look at the next 6 and, well, you'll see what I mean. Cinnamon is our first machine, a 1.6 GHz base model from 2003. Now, she's more or less complete, just missing 1 stick of RAM. Next up is Ginger, a dual processor 1.8 GHz machine from, again, 2003. She's missing a GPU and only has a single stick of RAM inside, which is pointless. More on that in a moment. Then there's Vanilla, who is anything but. She's a mid-2004 single 1.8 GHz machine that's very different from the rest. She's missing RAM, a hard drive, and a GPU. Nutmeg is up next, a mid-2004 1.8 GHz dual processor machine that has no RAM, no hard drive, no GPU, plus she's been taken apart by someone and not put fully back together, so I'm going to put her aside and make her a future project. Then there's Saffron, a mid-2004 2 GHz dual processor machine that needs RAM, a hard drive, and a GPU, but interestingly is that she's a PCI Express ×2 machine. I'm not 100% certain what that means, but she is different from the rest. Finally, there's Sugar, a mid-2005 machine featuring a dual 2.3 GHz processor setup, 11 gigs of RAM, and well, she's good to go. Out of all these 7 machines, Cocoa and Sugar are working, so I'll set those aside. They need cleaning, and in the case of Cocoa, deep cleaning. But I'll save that for another day because I think an in-depth strip down video is required for these machines. They're not as easy to work on as the G4s were. Nutmeg is also in need of stripping down to check what's been damaged, and again I'll set her aside for later. That leaves us with cinnamon, vanilla, ginger and saffron. Can I get all of these working? Can I get any of these working? Let's start with cinnamon and find out. To begin with, I double check each machine to make sure I know what's in them and what's not. Honestly, it takes a while and these machines are very heavy. It's also very clear that the aluminium cases are in either good or terrible condition. So with the machine sorted and we've had a look at what's what, I'm going to start with Cinnamon, our 1.6 GHz machine, because, well, she already had one stick of RAM, and I suspect that the second stick was in our dual processor 1.8 gig machine, which also only had one stick of RAM. There's a hard drive and a GPU in here, so this could be the easiest restoration to start with. So yeah, let's strip it down, clean it out, and let's see how we get on. Yes, one of the downsides of having so many fans inside these cases is they are a huge dust trap, and every machine is covered in thick layers of dust, some worse than others. For now, I'm just going to use some rhubarb spray and try and clear out as much as I can. Now, as it happens, both Ginger and Cinnamon had a single stick of RAM each, which is pointless because the Mac G5 requires 2 sticks of RAM installed at any one time, and they have to be matched. Now, as it happens, this particular RAM isn't matched, but it is the same size, so they're two 256 megabyte sticks, so hopefully it'll work, but let's not hold our breath here, okay? Getting to install the RAM is tricky. You have to remove that one set of fans that sits in front of the processor, and as I say, this is dual channel. You have to make sure that the slots match up. So, 1 stick of RAM in the bottom slot, 1 stick of RAM in the corresponding top slot. Hopefully it'll work, but I genuinely am not expecting it to, because these G5s can be incredibly fussy when it comes to memory. So one of the important things to do with the G5 is make sure this plastic shield is in place. There are sensors inside the case. If it hears or realizes this is not there, the fans will just spin up because it doesn't have a sealed cooling chamber. Wow, Apple really didn't think this through on this one. Honestly, as much as I love this design, it's terrible. Now let's get the case on and let's see if it actually works. Get this on. So we have power, we have view. Well, it's live. No chime though. And yeah, we're not getting an image. So I'm gonna guess our RAM configuration is incorrect. It's not happy. Okay, quick update. I didn't manage to find any RAM from my original stash, but however, I do have a couple of G4s lying around that have matching RAM. So I plundered one of my G4 Power Macs and we now have 1 gig of matching RAM, and let's see what happens. Well, it's different. Our white light is now on. Flashing 1, 2, 3. Oh, deep joy, what does that mean? Hey, progress is progress. Let's find out what that means. Okay, so I have checked it over, and apparently that means that there is no compatible RAM installed. But what's most interesting is I have left this machine idling whilst I searched, and yeah, the fans have really kicked up. I'm having to raise my voice just to be heard over these monsters. So yeah, maybe it's an issue then that this 1.6 gigahertz machine, I'm gonna have to track down some compatible RAM. Next then. Okay, so it looks like Cinnamon's down and out for the count. However, Vanilla, our 1.8 gigahertz machine, actually might be a better choice. Now, what's really amazing to me is how different these machines can be between revisions. The motherboard, I mean, there's no fans on this one for some reason. No block of fan there. We have our RAM banks there, and there's the missing AGP card up here. What I've done, I've taken the bits out of Cinnamon to see if it'll help. So let's populate things up and see if this will actually work. All right, a little cleaner. We've powered it up. We've got it sorted. Let's switch it on and see what happens. I may have put the wrong RAM in, so. Two flashes. Okay. That says it can't find RAM. No RAM is installed or detected. Great. Okay, alright. Let's change the RAM and see what happens. Okay, so proper RAM installed this time. I installed the incorrect stuff last time. Let's do power on. God, that's noisy. Oh, it chimed. We have a chime. Are we going to get a picture? Is there anything on this hard disk? But it is chiming. That's good. That's good. Oh, wait. Yes! We have actually... Oh, wait. It's booting. It is actually booting. Hang on. Let's take a look. So there we go. Yeah, we're booting. Wow, this one is noisy. I might actually just put the side back on this because it may be a little on the outside. So let's. The fact it says starting OS X 10 makes me very happy, and there it is. We have something. Excellent. Let's get the mouse installed and see what we've got there going on. Well, it turns out Vanilla is a bit special. To save money, Apple released a G5 Power Mac based on the iMac motherboard, so less RAM, but they also generated less heat. But it was only PCI instead of PCI Express. In short, it was a kind of cost-reduced version. And as it turns out, I don't think it was very popular because out of the 7 machines I have, this is the only one I have that has this iMac style board in there. So, that makes Vanilla decidedly more interesting to me than, well, the rest. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And while it's doing that, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, PCBWay. We all know that PCBWay make fantastic PCB boards, starting from just $5, and include things like, well, getting a replacement board for this old ZX Spectrum. What happens if your 3D printer isn't up to the task? Or you're having a little trouble with your CNC machine? Then look no further than PCBWay. In fact, if you can design it, PCBWay can help make it a reality. PCBWay, way more than just PCBs. For more information, check out the link in the description below. Next up is Ginger. Now, I'm intrigued with this machine. Ginger is dual processor, a dual core or dual processor, I don't know which, I think dual processor, 1.8 gigahertz machine, but the motherboard layout is almost identical to our 1.6 gigahertz machine, which couldn't see the memory. Now, having just run the memory in our single core 1.8 gigahertz machine and it worked, this might tell us whether the memory is faulty or whether it's just the board. So, let's see what happens. So, power on. It shines. Again, I put the hard drive in from the last machine, so with any luck we should see it boot up. And actually, this is a much quieter machine, much quieter. And I think this will just load with no issue. Let's plug in the USB. And yeah, it's loaded up exactly the same as it did before. No pram battery as well, which is always useful. But yeah, everything's fine. Okay, so it looks like our 1.6 gigahertz machine has a memory issue on the board, whereas this machine just works. Excellent. So we'll put Ginger in the working pile. That's not bad. We're up to 4 now. Just need to just confirm. Yep, dual 1.8 gigahertz PowerPC G5. Very nice. Our final test machine for the day is Saffron. That is a 2 gigahertz dual processor machine. Again, I have taken the RAM out of the other machines. I've also borrowed a graphics card because I am missing an AGP card for this one. I have put a new hard drive in, which I bought the other day for €1. They were supposedly broken. They weren't. They'd just been in a raid thing and the shop didn't know how to fix it. So let's see what happens. We've got a chime. Is it going to boot? Hard drive spinning up. Come on. There we go. Yep. And I already know that's going to be 10.5.8 because that's what I installed in it. Correction, 10.5.6. Well, that's wonderful. There are just one machine left that I can't check right now because that one apparently has been dismantled. There are loose cables, so that's going to have to be stripped down properly, which will be nice. In the meantime, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just check this machine and then I'm going to call it an afternoon and work out what exactly I'm going to do with the rest of these machines, because I think I'm going to have to order. Well, there we have it. Out of the 7 G5s in the tech department, I managed to get 5 of them working, and it basically all boiled down to RAM. Well, when I say 5, I mean 4. When I came in this morning, it turns out our G5 1.8 GHz single processor based on the iMac vanilla, well, she's actually stopped booting, and I don't know why. I've checked the RAM, I've checked the hard drive, I've even checked the GPU. For some reason, the machine simply won't boot. I can power it on, but there's no chime, and then I cannot power it off. Nor can I reset the PRAM battery, which is, one of the things you do as an Apple user. So if anyone's got any ideas of what's gone wrong there, let me know in the comments below. I'm kind of interested to know. But still, out of 7 to have more working than not, well, that's a huge thing for me. I think I'm really pleased with that. What did I learn about the G5 along the way? Well, I learned that I really like the design on the outside. This case is absolutely beautiful, even in, well, the sorry state that they're in now. They all need cleaning, and believe me, they do all need cleaning. However, the G5 is a horribly compromised machine in many ways, especially compared to the G4 Power Max and the Mac Pro that followed. The internal space for only 2 hard drives hobbled the machine immediately. There's only room for 1 DVD drive, so you couldn't even put a second one in, because occasionally we would actually want to copy DVDs, and that's a thing, at least back in 2003. Add to that the dual channel memory that you had to match up to make sure the machine worked. What a pain in the neck that was. But my biggest issue actually is with the fans and the cooling. This entire thing is just a giant heatsink to try and keep these processors cool. And while Ginger here is running nice and quietly, there are other machines that I can put on, leave it idle, and those fans ramp up. It also causes a huge problem for dust inside this machine. The sealed chamber is fantastic, but every one of these is plastered in dust on the inside. And when I come to do a strip down video with Coco, well, you'll see just how bad that can get. The other thing is, of course, stripping this machine down. It is not simple. Try taking the power supply out of this and you basically have to remove the entire motherboard and all the case features. It's a real pain. So Apple, well, you kind of dropped the ball on this, you really did. However, the Mac Pro, which uses the same case externals but with so much more storage and an optimized design inside, well, that went on to be a sales winner. In fact, there are still people these days who use the Mac Pro in the aluminium style case because it's so upgradable. So what do we do now? Well, I don't know. I don't know what to do with my G5s. A few of these I think will be put with 10.2, 10.3, 10.4 and 10.5 on it, which covers the 4 machines I have, so at least I can look back at when the operating systems came out to where we ended up. That'll be nice. What do I do with the other 3? Well, they're projects for another day. Quite a long day. Of course, all that's left to do now is thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy, please consider giving us a like, a share, and a subscribe, because it really helps small channels like this out. And yeah, it means that I can make more videos about nonsense like this. All that's left to say though is, when it comes to old machines like this, well, remember to reuse, recycle, rediscover, because you never know. You might find your very own G5 that just needs a home, and then it'll bring its friends, and they'll need a home as well. I have to put all these back. They're very heavy. If you don't hear from me in 2 weeks, the G5's got me. My name is Jess B. This is my tech department. Cheers. Don't look at me like that.